It's the first time this season Romo hasn't been ruled out. He went through 3 straight full practices this week. That hasn't happened since week 14 of the 2014 season. Over to NBA, the last remaining winless team put one in the win column last night.
4 seconds ago, back out to Teague for 3. That's in and out, no good. Ball tipped, and the 76ers have their first victory of the year. They beat the Indiana Pacers in overtime, 109-105, and Joel Embiid will lead them.
76ers radio network on the call. The rookie Embiid scored 16 of his 25 points in the fourth quarter and overtime as Philly moved to 1-7. Another milestone for LeBron James. At 31 years old, he became the youngest player in league history to reach 27,000 career points, surpassing Kobe Bryant, who was 32 when he hit the mark. The champion Cavaliers capped their trip to Washington, D.C. that included meeting President Barack Obama at the White House with a 105-94 win over the Wizards. This is Maria Marino, NBC Sports Radio, NBCSportsRadio.com.
All loans subject to lender approval, must be in business 1 year and have $100,000 in annual revenue. If your goal is to take your small business to the next level, there's something you're going to need above all else: money. Fortunately, we're talking with someone who's no stranger to helping small businesses. Barbara Corcoran from TV Shark Tank.
Listen, all companies need capital, and when it comes to capital, no one knows small business like OnDeck. OnDeck has delivered over $5 billion in loans, and having earned an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, it's no wonder why 9 out of 10 customers would recommend OnDeck to a friend. There's no obligation, and you could receive a loan decision in minutes and funding in as fast as 1 business day. Over 50,000 small businesses have already received the loans they needed, and so could you.
Speak with our U.S.-based loan specialist and find out how much you qualify for now at OnDeckLending.com or call 800-293-5565. That's 800-293-5565. 800-293-5565.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that there is no one path that's right for everyone. I've learned that without my high school diploma, I could only do so much. My options were limited. I found a free personalized learning program with Learn for Life that has a flexible schedule so I could keep my job while earning my high school diploma. I found a new career training opportunity that would jumpstart my future. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
102.3 FM, K292 FQ, Riverside.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Wake Up Show. Each week, we explore and take a deep dive into awakening the financial abundance we all have inside of us. We educate and create awareness by focusing on fundamental principles of money, talking to business and community leaders about successful habits, while learning from each other how to build, protect, and create legacies. And now, here's your host, Daniel Choi.
All right, good morning. It is a new day, and with each new day comes a new beginning and a new chance to do something great. Learn something new and enjoy everything this great life has to offer. We are live again from my office studio in Brea, California. And if you haven't done so already, go to iTunes or Google Play and subscribe to the podcast. You can download all of our shows. Also subscribe to the show on YouTube. You can find all of it under the Financial Wake Up Show with Daniel Choi here on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Follow the show, like us, and I promise I'll bring refreshing content to you every week, all right? Now, on every show, we talk about 3 things: growing and protecting your wealth. Secondly, exit planning, which is selling or transferring your business if you're a business owner, or retirement if you're an employee. And estate planning, which is creating a legacy while fully enjoying your money while you're alive. And we've got an exciting show today. The new NBA season has just started, and with that, I thought it'd be great to bring on a guest to talk about what you can learn from the financial issues facing professional athletes. So later on, we're going to bring on former Los Angeles Clipper great Lamond Murray to talk more about these issues. But as you've seen, we start each show with a Wake Up Now segment. And I know this show's about money, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't use the Wake Up Now segment today to say a few things about the election and the events of this past week. This is not going to be me ranting about who won or who I think should have won. I'm sharing this because I have a platform, and I believe I should say things for people out there who don't have this platform. So if you can indulge me for a few minutes, I'd greatly appreciate that. My message today is not about which candidate was better. I'm not happy or upset that my candidate won or didn't win. We are a democracy, and sometimes what I want will be enacted, and sometimes what I won't be enacted. I have no issues with our process, and it's one of the reasons I'm proud to be an American. We have the right to vote. So let me begin by saying that in any election, if you get more than 60% of the vote, that's considered a landslide victory, a major victory, over 60%. And Tuesday, 88% of black voters, 65% of Hispanic voters, and 65% of Asian voters voted in a landslide against President Trump, elect Trump. And 58% of white voters chose, in a near landslide, to elect him. Now, by sharing these numbers, I want to be clear. I am not saying that all these 58% of white voters who voted for Trump are hateful or racist or discriminatory people. They are not. I'm hoping the majority are not. We have two sides here, and I don't need to list the transgressions on both sides. We watch the news. We know what each side did. Half say what Trump said is and did is deplorable, unacceptable, and intolerable. And half say what Hillary stands for is deplorable, unacceptable, and intolerable. I have my opinion of what is acceptable and what's not, what I believe a leader should and shouldn't be. I'm not here to share with you what my opinion is. My point is that if it was solely a debate of who's more competent and who's more fit or unfit, and it's a debate based purely on political or fiscal policy, then why was there such a huge racial divide in the voting results? Trump lost by a landslide to non-white communities, and Clinton lost in a landslide to white communities, which tells me the vote was heavily influenced by race. And it tells me in some parts of my country, racism, sexism, and religious discrimination is alive and thriving. And it also tells me that people frustrated with the government establishment is alive and thriving. And again, if it was purely about politics and not about race, then the polling data would show more balance across all ethnicities and genders, and we didn't see that. And that's what bugs me. It wasn't just a political election. It was an election around acceptance of diversity. And again, I'm not saying everyone who voted Trump is a racist, misogynist, or hateful person, but there is an undeniable race factor, a religious factor, a sexism factor in this election, and the statistics show that. And then we see this in action on social media and the news this past week, where you see acts of violence, racial violence, religious violence, rioting. But what's heartbreaking to me is it's not just the adults doing these acts, but children telling other children to leave the country, to go back to Africa or Mexico, hearing stories of Muslims who are scared to wear their religious clothing in public now. And what about all the women in our country who've been sexually abused or violated? Do we just sweep their issues under the rug like this campaign did? And when children and adults are acting out in this way, it shows the types of messaging being delivered in our homes across the United States about what's okay and what's not okay. That is something we need to grapple with. What are the messages and what is being taught in each of our homes right now? What is the message that is being delivered to our next generation? Now, as an American born in the United States to immigrant South Korean parents who've been citizens since the 1970s, me being born and raised and educated in our public school system my whole life, that diligently has paid taxes my entire working life, and I support our military wholeheartedly, I know that my country is better than the hate and the violence we are seeing on both sides. This country welcomed my family, and all of our families for that matter, to this better life and the opportunity to live the American dream. And just like this country was open to my family and many others, we as people now need to be, more than ever, open. We need to open our hearts and our minds more than ever to other ethnicities, religions, sexualities, and philosophies. I'm more concerned that we're closing our hearts and our minds than I am concerned about closing our borders, frankly. We need to embody what I think makes America the greatest country in the world. And what makes America the greatest country in the world is the opportunity to live the dream. All of us came here at some point to this country to live that dream, unless you were a slave. And if you were born here, like me, you were born into this chance to live your dreams, free from persecution, free from discrimination, free from oppression. And America was founded on this freedom. Yesterday, we honored veterans who have fought for this freedom. But without openness, these acts of violence and negativity that are being displayed, the hate will win. The closing of hearts and the closing off of minds will win. And to me, that's way worse than President Trump being elected. It will mean that hate has won. We are imposing the oppression and segregation that directly contradicts the freedom our country was founded on. You see, I think there's a second election coming up, an infinitely more important election. And it's not one that you go to a polling place to vote at. It's an election based on your actions. It's an election where you vote with your actions. It's an election against hate, discrimination, and separation. And so I ask everyone listening to this to vote again by your actions. And I ask that you vote through your actions for kindness, generosity, openness, acceptance, unity, and forgiveness of all of us, brothers and sisters together from all backgrounds, religions, sexual preferences, and embrace this diversity which makes us great. I ask everyone to vote again through action by giving your friends and coworkers space and time to heal in their way, to voice concerns, to share experiences so we can grow. Let's not lecture each other. Let's not take sides. It's irrelevant. The second election is not a political election that I'm talking about. It's an election for humanity and decency. Let's not tell each other how to think or let things go or impose our positions. Let's listen to each other and learn. Let's win this second election for humanity, for decency, with your vote through action, and vote for openness, kindness, and to advance our great nation to even higher levels. Let's use this emotion and energy we feel to form groups and forums and start new movements for change and progression, not towards violence or destruction or gloating to one side and grieving on the other side. Let's move towards positive change. And I hope that we don't condone or empower the hate and anger that fueled many of the votes from this past Tuesday. Because if we can win this second election through action against hate and separation, and instead for decency and humanity, the results from this past Tuesday would have been exactly what was supposed to happen for all of us to win in the long term. Now, financially, this election may cause market volatility. So to bring it back to money, fiscal policy, trade agreements, we don't know how they're going to unfold, and how those unfold will dictate investor sentiment. I urge you to also talk to somebody about what you're currently invested in, or talk to me. You need to be proactive about this. If not, you can lose hard-earned money for no reason. All it takes is an email, a phone call to get more awake. There's no obligation. It's confidential. Call or email, because if you're not awake to your investments, you could make mistakes, especially those of you close to retirement. And for what? Because this election happened and you didn't reach out. Call me, 8507-WAKE-UP. That's 8507-WAKE-UP. Or email me at daniel@financialwakeupshow.com. I implore you to take action and also to do this prior to potential market corrections. So now that I got that off my chest, I want to talk about what I really wanted to discuss, which is what are the lessons we all can learn from the financial issues that professional athletes face today? Now, according to Bleacher Report, Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, Scottie Pippen, Derek Coleman, Antoine Walker, all former NBA players, are among many that have had serious financial issues. You've seen the ESPN 30 for 30 shows on money and the issues that athletes face. And you might be thinking, what do I have from a financial standpoint that relates to an NBA athlete? Well, in a short answer, a lot. Think of it this way. Athletes make money at a much higher rate than most people in a very compressed, shortened time frame, which means their successes and failures are magnified that much more than in a typical case, which also means we can learn a lot from their successes and failures because their issues happen on a larger, faster scale. The theory of what's happening to them very much applies to all of us. We just have it more spread out over time and on a lower scale. So I'm going to start with a story. When I was working in San Francisco about 15 years ago, I met a client and she wanted me to help her with her retirement. She had saved over $700,000 in retirement and was thinking about retiring in the next 5 years. Now, how did I meet her? She was part of my building's maintenance team. She cleaned our offices late at night. When I started in this industry, I worked a lot of late nights, and I got to know her. And her annual income was $30,000 a year, living in San Francisco. Yet she had saved over $700,000. I know people who make over $350,000 a year, and not only they don't have money saved, they're in debt. So my point is this: having a boatload of money is not the key to financial success. Getting a big sum of money does not solve your financial woes. Financial success comes from savings, smart decisions, tough decisions, made consistently over time. And it's not from chasing returns. So many people talk about how rate of return is so important to solve your woes, and it won't. It's making good decisions consistently over time. And a pile of money may create more problems because people tend to overestimate their financial health because of the balances in their accounts. So let's turn to athletes, because Sports Illustrated published an article a couple years ago saying 78% of NFL players face bankruptcy or serious financial stress within 2 years of leaving the game. And 60% of NBA players face the same dire results in 5 years. Okay? Now listen to this. According to the National Endowment for Financial Education, 70% of lottery winners or who get a financial windfall end up broke in a few years. Do you see the correlation? I'll repeat that. 78% of NFL players, 60% of NBA players, 70% of lottery winners all end up in trouble. So I'll repeat, having a bunch of money is not the solution. The similarity between athletes and lottery winners is crazy. So what's the problem? The rich, right? There should be problems. So there's 5 problems. There's 5 reasons. 1, a short earnings career. Here's what I mean by that. People, let's say you work for a salary or for a company and you work till 65. And let's say you started at age 25. That means you've worked for 40 years, okay? Now, if you save 10% of a $120,000 salary for those 40 years and you grow the money at 6%, you have a guess of how much you'll have at 65? You'll have north of $1.85 million at 65. Now, let's say you're an athlete and you earn $10 million in your career. Now, in California, you're going to pay 51% in tax. Without any deductions, that means you'd have to save 38% of your income to get the same amount for retirement that someone did saving 10% at age 65. Now, because you have a shorter work life, if athletes haven't saved the money, they end up having to work, and they do after retirement. And the athletes I've worked with, they're not even remotely aware that this is going to happen. So savings is critical, regardless of what your salary is. Now, the second major issue is taxes. Taxes, unavoidable. Athletes pay a lot of them. So do many of you. So do I. But how about planning strategies in the prior year to minimize your taxes in the future? For example, what have you done differently this year to minimize your taxes next April 15th? Anything? Because too many people, athletes included, just throw their documents at a CPA and say, okay, file my return, I got to do it by April 15th. By then, it's too late to make any changes, because this lack of pre-planning from a tax perspective, by the time an athlete or you file your return, most of the damage is done. And if you're not planning taxes proactively before the year ends, there's very, very little that can be done. So setting up businesses, charitable foundations, legal entities, These are some of the many strategies available to athletes and available to you that you may not be aware of. So to help you, I've got an upcoming show in the next couple of weeks on what you could do from a tax perspective before the end of the year to address next year's returns. Now, the third reason, bad advice. You might be asking, why do people with so much money not know any better? Or have people around them that know better? And I've heard ridiculous stories of athletes getting scammed out of their money. Recently, ESPN posted a story of how NBA legend Tim Duncan had a financial advisor that was indicted for wire fraud with losses in the tens of millions of dollars. So one factor, I believe, is how athletes are introduced to their advisors. In the sports world, the agent has a huge influence on the athlete, especially someone who's 24 years old and just came into a lot of money. So many agents refer advisors to their athlete clients. Family and friends are commonly used as advisors to athletes. And my question is this: how are these advisors vetted? These strategies are put in the hands of advisors, and they're given tremendous responsibility. And from what I've seen, they chase returns, they stockpile a bunch of money, and I shared with you before, having a pile of money is not the key to financial success. You got a plan to address all the key issues facing an athlete and facing you, for that matter, that includes all factors. And I think there's, again, a lack of education and advisors as well. The fourth reason, their environment, the athlete's environment. They've got friends, they've got lifestyles, and it's not just keeping up with the regular Joneses down the street. We're talking mansions and cars and everything else. And I've seen bar tabs nearing six figures that athletes pay without flinching an eye. USA Today reported that Vince Young, who's a former NFL quarterback, spent $5,000 a week at Cheesecake Factory. $5,000 a week. That's $700 a day, every day of the week. Now, this spending, it doesn't include loans that they make to friends and family, investments in failed businesses, jewelry. Questionable decisions like this, it's got to be counterbalanced by an advisor who recognizes that this can't keep going on. And surprisingly, agents pay sometimes very little attention to what an athlete does with their money. They're concerned with making them the money and not necessarily so much about when it comes to making sure it lasts. So if you have an athlete who's got an addiction like gambling or alcohol, man, the downfall is even faster. And these bad habits, these patterns, if they're not controlled, any of us, by the way, who have bad habits, it ends up leaving you broke. Remember, money's a state of mind. It's not just a number on a bank statement. And the last thing is legal issues, divorce, child support, bad business deals, lawsuits. The legal fees can put a massive dent in an athlete's pocketbook. I've seen business ownership contracts that are 1 page long, okay? Business ownership contracts that basically says, you own this store. I mean, it's a 1 page thing. I've seen where legal entities, trusts, other things are not even set up. There's no protection here. So when an issue comes up, they've got to pay lawyers a boatload of money. That wasn't planned for. So instead of creating this legacy for communities, they're building these castles for lawyers, right? Which is great which is great if you're a lawyer, but not so good if you're not a lawyer. So, in summary, what do you think lottery winners face? Lottery winners face the same problems. And here's the crazy thing, and the point I'm going to try to make. You deal with the same core issues, but it's on a slower, smaller scale. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So one of my missions is to get this information out there to athletes, to you. Everyone needs to know. I believe you can be taken advantage of. Athletes can be taken advantage of because of their youth. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick break. We've got a guest on the line that I'm really excited to introduce, and give us a few minutes to share some words from our sponsors. You're on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. With this being a new show, I've had to think a lot about promoting the show. So I needed some stuff printed and looking sharp, including the nice poster board you see behind me. And I have to tell you, the people at Copytron Printing
If you have anything you need printed, these are the folks you need to get in touch with. First off, they've been around for 22 years. They handle your design, last-minute printing projects. They've got competitive pricing on black and white and color copies, diverse product lineup, which includes things like yard signs, banner and poster printing, books, labels, t-shirts, trade show displays. They know what they're doing, do it extremely well, and with the cost and service you'll need. They're in Anaheim, but if you need, they'll ship your order clear across the country, make it worth your while. Brianna and Noelle, they were so helpful to me. They'll take care of you just like they took care of me. Not to mention, look them up on Yelp. They've got amazing reviews. So call them at 1-800-300-9485. That's 1-800-300-9485. Ask for Brianna. She's going to help you with any of these printing needs. For those of you more internet inclined, it's copytronprinting.com. That's copytron printing.com. Make sure you tell them promo code Financial Wake Up when you call or email. You'll get an additional 10% off their already competitive pricing. You can't beat that for the quality and service they're going to provide you.
All right. Welcome back on the Financial Wake Up Show with Daniel Choi. And, before we get to our guests, I always conclude my talk with a be aware or beware tip of the week. And so this week, my be aware or beware tip of the week is be aware that money and having lots of it doesn't mean your financial issues are solved. Be aware that chasing a rate of return or simply using a rate of return as a measure for financial success, it could lead to disappointing results. Or be aware of falling into the same pitfalls as professional athletes. And while athletes may experience it on a bigger scale, the rest of us can experience the same problems. In fact, because the pain of financial mistakes on a smaller scale can be spread out over, let's say, a 40-year work career, you could be absolutely doing the wrong things and not feel it. Beware that feeling no financial pain doesn't mean you're financially healthy. And if there's one thing to take away from the stories we've heard today, it's that healthy savings, smart decisions, good habits, and consistency are the keys to a long-term financial security. And we all deserve that, to unlock that for ourselves, our families, and that savings and good habits apply no matter how much money you make or have. So these stories that I'm sharing, I think initially you're thinking to yourself, well, geez, that's too bad for them. But again, what I really want to focus on is the importance of addressing these concerns before they happen. I talked about tax planning. I talked about doing things proactively through the election. It's really critical that we take a look at that. I do want to remind everyone that the phone lines are open. The number here for questions is 888-909-1050. That's 888-909-1050. I believe we do have some technical difficulties getting Lamont on the line. So in the meantime, I do have a couple of email questions that have come through, and I'm going to address those for you on the line. But again, if you'd like to ask anything or make any commentary, feel free to call. And I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you have. One of the email questions that came from Christine, who's, I don't know where she's writing from. Maybe I should ask you all to tell me where you're writing from so I can announce that over the air. But Christine writes, what is the right amount to put away into my company's retirement program? And this is a common one I get. In fact, I had a meeting with a client the other night where the question was, how much do I put into my company or work retirement plan? I seem to get this a lot. So I want to take a quick moment and address that. When it comes to retirement programs that are offered through work, it's really important to think about. There are 3 classifications that all your accounts will fall into. Last week I talked a lot about fees, taxes. The 3 main categories of tax buckets that you can put your money in are tax deferred, tax free, and taxable. Let me repeat that. Tax deferred, tax free, and taxable. Let me explain the differences. Tax deferred means I'm going to put money into an account not pay taxes today. I will pay them in the future when I pull them out. Okay? And typically you're going to pull those out during retirement. 59.5 is usually the earliest you can start that. If you take it out before 59.5, you get taxed, okay, and penalized. The next thing that we have is taxable accounts. Taxable accounts are those where you pay not only gains taxes today, but when you liquidate investments in the future, you pay taxes again, okay? The third type of tax bucket is tax-free, where you pay taxes today and you say, I'm not going to pay taxes on those for the rest of my life. So to answer the question, how much should I be putting into my company retirement program? That's a very good one, because it has to do with matching. What does your company offer in terms of matching? And number two, in addition to the matching aspect, what are some of the tax risks you want to take on? Because if I'm putting everything into my 401k or my 457 or whatever my work offers me, I'm building a huge mountain of money that's subject to future income tax, and that's a big problem. Okay, so Christine, I hope I answered your question there. We've solved our technical issues. I believe we have our guest on the line. I want to take a great pleasure in introducing my guest. He's a legendary California Golden Bear, which is my alma mater. Go Bears. While he was at Cal, he averaged 19 points a game in 3 seasons, leaving after his junior year. That third junior year, he averaged 24 points a game and 7 boards a game. He was drafted first round, 7th overall in the 1994 draft by the Los Angeles Clippers and played 12 years in the NBA for the Clippers, Raptors, and Cavs. He then played overseas for a few years before retiring. He's a great scorer, shooter. I've gotten to know him off the basketball court. And so I want to welcome our guest, Cal Clipper great, Lamont Murray. Lamont, welcome to the Financial Wake Up Show. How are you?
Hi, good. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you on the air this time. Now, you enjoyed a long career as a professional athlete. I talked a lot about athlete issues before. And you and I have talked about some of the issues that face athletes today. What do you think are the primary money issues that the NBA and NFL players and Major League Baseball players are facing today?
Well, just go back with some of my experiences in the NBA and the NBA circles. I would just say the biggest issue in any sport is just being around the same regurgitated financial advisors, the same agents, these circles of people that have been around in the game, just leeching off of players for many and many years, and they go off their reputation of, them having a history of working with, former players or guys that have played over 10, 15 years. And, a lot of kids and a lot of parents, they like just rolling with, people that they feel are familiar with the industry and not really doing their research and understanding what that really means in terms of how guys will be treated, how guys have learned how to beat the system. And by the time people, the parents and the players wake up, they've been stung, like other players have in the past. So I think that's the biggest issue, just the same people and them having that closed circle and not allowing, people with a fresh outlook on the financial industry, as well as, new agents that come into play, not really giving them a chance to be able to get their footing in the industry. And, it's like anything else. It's like, Hollywood, you got these same, A&R people in music. You got the same, casting directors in Hollywood. And, they're accustomed to, doing things a certain way. And, next thing you know, people are being used and spit out like the ones in the past. So I think that's the biggest issue.
Right. Now, you were drafted at 20 years old, and a lot of athletes deal with that too. They're young, they come into a lot of money, they're influenced easily by like you said, the same regurgitation of agents and people trying to leech at their money almost. What are some things that you think would have helped you, back at that age to make some better decisions from a financial standpoint?
At that age, I don't think anything could help you. The only thing that could really help you would be having a parents or guardians that have already established, what can I say, a lifestyle to where they know exactly where, you should be putting money, having those tools already in place that they've already done themselves, because those are the most trusted people that you're going to be around your whole life, that you can really, that you've learned from up to that, that point. And for me, it was really hard because my mom and my dad, at that time, they were only renters. They didn't know about ownership. They didn't know about owning homes and what tax advantages that would be, for owning a home. They didn't know, they had a basic checking account. They lived paycheck to paycheck. So they didn't really, know about retirement accounts. They didn't know these things. So it was all new for everybody.
Right. And, so many of our listeners and my clients, they've got the same questions. And for our listeners out there, Lamont also served as a team player rep for the NBA Players Association for a lot of years. And that's a very distinguished honor, basically representing the team to the NBA. And now he's got projects in basketball, technology. We want to talk a little bit about that right now. He's got his own basketball program, Real Run International. For those of you out there, check them out at realruninternational.com. I have talked about collaborating for these young players. They're coming up. It's a lot more than basketball that you envision, that I see. You want to incorporate this into what players get through your system. So what inspires you to get involved with the youth and help them from dealing with some of the same financial issues other athletes are dealing with?
Well, like we just talked about, it starts at a young age. And, having a son that's kind of gone through the system, I'm able to see how players maneuver through the AAU circuit. When I played, there was no, AAU basketball like it is today. Like, everybody has a team now. Adidas is involved, Under Armour is involved, all these sponsored teams are out there, and, you got a lot of the same people that's been around since I was in middle school and going to high school, that have really used this platform to become millionaires. And a lot of people don't understand that or know that, and, they've gone and gotten sponsorships from Adidas to give kids free shoes and make it feel like they're really getting something, a pair of free shoes and a T-shirt, when realistically, they're like little small farm systems of these youth that are being taken around the country, used because they're being seen in front of other college coaches. These AAU coaches are getting kickbacks. You got agents that are involved that are giving kickbacks to these AAU coaches as well. So it goes deeper than just, the game of basketball, and this has been going on for at least 20, 25 years now. And I got involved because, like I said, I had a son who just went through that system. He wasn't one of those kids because I was involved, but, I was around to be able to see how they maneuvered, to kind of see, where the loopholes were in the game. And I wanted to start something different with our program. So what we do is we start with kids 8th grade and under, and we develop them on the court as well as off the court. So what we've done is we're teaching them the basic fundamentals of the game of basketball. And then at the same time, we do what we were taught in the NBA. We have community days where we go out and we clean up beaches. We have other opportunities that we take these kids out to Clipper games and allow them to get, a chance to, see what it's like to be in the arena, to see, these guys playing for millions and millions of dollars, but then also to be able to get on a chance to walk on the court and shoot free throws. And, you know, so we look at it from that angle. And then what we've done also is from 8th grade and under, we have our program, and then we tier it up. We just leapfrog high school because it's so saturated with, like I said before, these leeches of non-players out here pimping these kids out and getting all these kickbacks from agents and college coaches, and we just leapfrog them, and then we just go to our college summer league, where we give our kids a platform that either like on their team's bench most of the year, don't get a chance to really play, was sold as a dream that never materialized. So we give them a platform in the summer to come out and prove that they can play. Allow them to get video and tape on themselves playing in the summer league against great competition at the collegiate level. You know, we stay away from the Drew League, which is another platform for guys to get exposure for professional teams, and we don't sell them that dream. We just say, you know what, we have a community of college players. Let's play against each other. Let's get better. Let's give you guys tape that you can give to other college coaches if you're trying to transfer. If you're a graduating senior that didn't get looked at, hey, we have some video, we have some tape that you can take with you and say, hey, I competed against, you know, some of the top players in the L.A. County, the Los Angeles area, and give them an opportunity to be seen to where maybe they can make some money overseas. You know, because the tape is king, video is king for these kids, and then us being former players, me and my partner, DeAnthony Langston, he played over in Japan for 12, 13 years, you know, so we're able to give those kids some insight on how the game works and what they can look forward to and kind of, you know, be a resource for them to be able to, you know, play past college, and that's kind of like what we can look at it, you know, our college summer league. So it's a tiered up effect, so.
That's powerful stuff, Lamont. I mean, really some good things, and a lot of the issues I mentioned before, you're directly involved with fixing and making better for the future. You know, before I let you go, I know you have some new ventures in technology, which I think is pretty neat. Streamology and StreamWorld. I want to share with everyone the websites on that, but tell everyone about what you're doing on the technology side and some of the ventures you're doing there.
Yeah, you know, we've been, you know, like anything else, technology is just one of those things that's constantly evolving and constantly moving. And me and my partner Tony Farmer, who's the creative mind behind StreamWorld and Streamology, he's created a streaming device where you're able to stream live TV, movies that are actually in theaters. So what he's done, he's made a platform that he's taken all these streams. Because when I used to play overseas, when we were you know, locked up in a hotel, you know, we try to find a way. I'm in China and Middle East, trying to find a way to watch American TV, and there was no real way to do that. But you had to get on your laptop. You had to go through all these different streams as long as you had internet. So what he's done, he's combined all those streams, and he's put it in one box, and where it's really easy. You tap it, you watch live TV, you watch all your TV shows, you can watch your Netflix, you can watch your HBO, you watch your Showtime, and it's all on this box, and all you need is a Wi-Fi connection, you know, and it's really, it's revolutionizing the game. You know, you still have your Apple TV out there, but you only get a certain amount of channels. You know, you got your Rokus and all that, but you don't get the live sports, the live TV and the live action MMA fights, you know, that people are having to pay for. And we put it all on one box, and we're launching our box on Black Friday. So,
wow, it's a good day to do it. I mean, people are going to be
definitely day to do it. Right now, it's going to be. We're looking really forward to doing that. We're doing everything online right now, so you know, the stream world is here.
All right. Well, for all our listeners, it's getstreamology.com. That's streamology.com, and the other website is thestreamworld.com. That's THE streamworld.com. You know, I'm really glad that we had a chance to listen to Lamont. He comes from a very successful NBA career. I mean, just to play as long as you did and have the success you did with the teams you did, and of course representing the Cal Bears, which all of our listeners that are Cal alumni, we are extremely grateful for and have fond memories of those days. I'm grateful that you came on the show and had a chance to tell us about what you're up to. So check out the streaming technology that Lamont talked about, also Real Run International. By the way, all of you parents out there listening who have kids in soccer and softball and baseball and basketball, I hope you took away that what Lamont's talking about when it comes to travel teams, it's not just basketball, it's all the others too. So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to do our Give More, Get More segment. You're on KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM.
With this being a new show, I've had to think a lot about promoting the show. So I needed some stuff printed and looking sharp, including the nice poster board you see behind me. And I have to tell you, the people at Copytron Printing, if you have anything you need printed, these are the folks you need to get in touch with. First off, they've been around for 22 years. They handle your design, last-minute printing projects. They've got competitive pricing on black and white and color copies, diverse product lineup, which includes things like yard signs, banner and poster printing, books, labels, t-shirts, trade show displays. They know what they're doing, do it extremely well, and with the cost and service you'll need. They're in Anaheim, but if you need, they'll ship your order clear across the country, make it worth your while. Brianna and Noel, they were so helpful to me. They'll take care of you just like they took care of me. Not to mention, look them up on Yelp. They've got amazing reviews. So call them at 1-800-300-9485. That's 1-800-300-9485. Ask for Brianna. She's going to help you with any of these printing needs. For those of you more internet inclined, it's copytronprinting.com. That's copytron printing.com. Make sure you tell them promo code Financial Wake Up when you call or email. You'll get an additional 10% off their already competitive pricing. You can't beat that for the quality and service they're going to provide you.
Okay, and we are back. For those of you who caught my first few shows, you know that the last 10 minutes of every show I dedicate to a charity in our Give More to Get More segment. Why? Because I think to get more, you've got to give more. And I think it's very important that we highlight some of the amazing things happening in our communities. So on this week's Give More to Get More segment, we are joined by Reagan Phillips, Chief Program Officer for Court-Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA, of Orange County. Reagan joined CASA OC as the Chief Program Officer in July of 2015, but she first became involved with CASA in 2001 as she was getting her master's degree in social work at Columbia University. She then went on to receive her JD from Chapman University in 2005. During law school, Reagan participated in various competitions as a member of the Moot Court Honors Board and the Alternate Dispute Resolution Board, where she served as president. She also spent a semester working as an extern for Justice Aronson at the Court of Appeal. Upon passing her bar in 2005, she began a career as an attorney and then served on CASA's governing board for a period of 4 years. She's got a BA from USC, and I won't say anything about USC being a Cal grad, but nonetheless, she's also a local graduate from Mater Dei High School. We're really happy to have her on the show. Reagan, how are you this morning?
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk about CASA. I mentioned that my wife spent a few years volunteering for CASA, and we feel very passionate about the cause. What is the mission of CASA? Tell our listeners.
Well, CASA provides a powerful voice for youth in the child welfare system through a unique one-on-one relationship with trained and supervised court-appointed volunteer advocates. We work to ensure that these youth are safe, that they have a permanent home, and an opportunity to thrive. Essentially, at CASA, we recruit and train, screen, and then support community volunteers that no prior experience or specialized knowledge necessary, When they're completed their training, they become sworn in as officers of the court and are thereafter able to connect with youth that are in the foster care system and participate in otherwise confidential proceedings in juvenile court.
Yeah, it's really, some of the stories I've heard are very powerful coming out of CASA. What's the history of CASA and CASA Orange County? Can you give us a little background on that?
Sure. So CASA started in 1977 by a judge who recognized that social workers were strapped with high caseloads and they weren't able to devote as much time to each individual child in the foster care system that was on their caseload. He decided that by starting a nonprofit where community volunteers could essentially act as the eyes and ears of the child and report back to the dependency court, they'd be able to better serve these children and address their unique and individual needs. CASA of Orange County started in 1985 with assistance from the Junior League, and since that time we've served thousands of kids in Orange County's foster care system.
And so the kids in the foster care system, what are the specific areas that CASA provides support to them, and why is that so important for our listeners to gain some awareness on?
Well, so as I indicated before, in Orange County there are about 3,000 children in the foster care system, and that's a high caseload for any social worker, for the judges who are reviewing and overseeing these cases, for the attorneys who represent the kids in the foster care system. Our volunteers are assigned or matched with one child to develop a one-on-one relationship. They're able to serve as a mentor and someone who that child can turn to. They spend time on a monthly basis regularly with these children, get to know their needs, get to know who they are as an individual, and then participate in a lot of their meetings with social workers, with their schools, connect with their caregivers, therapists. They can weigh in and be a voice for that child. Our volunteers provide reports at all the court proceedings on behalf of the youth and are able to speak up in court and really involve themselves in these proceedings on behalf of the child in a way that is unique and specific to one child.
That's such important messaging there. And I started the show talking a little bit about the election. California legislation is going to go into effect January 2017 that effectively eliminates group homes for dependent youth. Now, what does this mean, and what should we as listeners be aware of when this legislation takes effect in January in a couple months?
Yes, in just a couple months, there's some pending legislation that's going to really change the landscape here in California for foster youth, or as we call them, dependent youth. Group homes are a pretty common placement for many of these youth. If they can't be in a foster home with a family, many of our youth end up in group homes, and there was some legislation passed that effectively decided that group homes were no longer an ideal situation for these kids. Many of these homes have been reclassified or accredited under different circumstances, but many have not been able to do that, and so there's going to be a bit of a crisis in terms of where these kids are going to go. There aren't a lot of real secure answers for that. So our advocates and the work that they're doing on behalf of these kids are going to be even more important as we go forward, making sure that there's places for them to ultimately be living, to find permanency for them in their lives, and to make sure that their needs are being met.
Okay. Now, what areas does CASA need help, and how do our listeners get involved if they want to?
So because we rely on the commitment of our volunteers every day to help with these kids, becoming an advocate is really the best way that many people can assist. It's a big commitment, but it's a worthwhile one, I can assure you of that. Like I mentioned, with 3,000 kids in the foster care system, CASA serves about 800. CASA of Orange County serves about 800 of those 3,000 annually. So we're still only able to serve a fraction of the kids in the foster care system, and we always have a bit of a wait list, meaning that we're not able to get matches for every single child, and we're trying as actively as we can to make sure that we do make matches as quickly as we can when we get new volunteers who have been trained and are ready to go. So becoming a volunteer, checking out our website for upcoming informational sessions that they might attend. Of course, we also are 98% privately funded, so donations are always a good way to help us keep our staff who support these volunteers and help them, guide them through the bureaucracy and difficulty of the child welfare system is another good way to help support our agency.
So for everyone listening, it's casaoc.org. That's casaoc.org for more information. It is an amazing cause for those of you looking to get involved in the community, and to make financial donations as well would be of importance. Last question, Reagan, before I let you go. What for you has been the most rewarding aspects of your involvement with CASA?
There are many rewarding aspects of my involvement with CASA, and as you mentioned in my bio earlier, I've been involved with CASA on many different levels for many years. I think now working internally, I'm endlessly inspired by these volunteers, by these advocates who dedicate such amazing time to these kids who really are so involved and invested. And many of our volunteers, though the requirement, the base requirement for a volunteer is to connect for 2 years so that we can continue to provide consistency for these children, many of our volunteers have been with us for far more years, and there are some that have been with us for 20 plus and have worked with many, many youth over those years. So I'm inspired by our volunteers, and I'm really inspired by the difference that I have seen firsthand that these volunteers can make in the life of a child, someone who's paying attention, someone who's seeing what their unique needs are and taking steps actively to make sure that those needs get fulfilled by someone who's able to do so, whether that be in school, whether that be through therapy, whether that be in finding a permanent connection for these kids emotionally or physically, so that they have someone to connect with throughout their life. And once they're done with the dependency system, many of our kids emancipate or age out, and it's important to know that there's someone that's going to be there for them. One person can make an amazing difference in the life of a child. Very inspiring stuff. And for everyone out there, every week we bring these organizations to the table. As I mentioned earlier in the show, take action. This is the type of action that we vote with. Reagan, thank you so much for your time this morning. For everyone on the call, they're featured on our website now, financialwakeupshow.com, under the Give More to Get More tab. Reagan, have a great Saturday. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for featuring CASA. Thank you. All right, so as we wrap it up, again, I encourage everyone out there, if you have issues and you're worried about what the election is going to do from a financial standpoint, if you have issues that were resonating and you have a child playing sports and what Lamont talked about there, give me a call, talk to me, ask questions. Again, the phone number, 850-7-WAKE-UP. I answer that phone. If I don't answer, I'll get back to you within the day. The website, again, financialwakeupshow.com. Lots of great information on there. Write me, ask me questions. You can also email me, daniel@financialwakeupshow.com. I will write you back. The Facebook page is also a place where you can make comments. Twitter, @TFWS, ask questions. I really enjoyed today's show. I feel like we had a lot of powerful messaging today. I encourage you that whatever you do, don't fall asleep when it comes to your money. Wake up to it. Find information and awareness. And until the next time we speak next Saturday, I wish you health, wealth, and prosperity. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care.
Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Daniel Choi, Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor and Certified Exit Planner, is a registered representative financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC. Securities products and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA, SIPC, financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is an indirect, wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Westpac Wealth Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. California Insurance License Number OD40390. This radio broadcast is for informational purposes only. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or Westpac. Opinions stated are their own and not necessarily those of PAS, Guardian, or Westpac. 2016-30361 expires 10/18.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa. Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company has been serving the greater Inland Empire for over 60 years. For all of your printing needs, from full-color printing to high-speed copying and everything in between, go to Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company. Their staff is committed to your total satisfaction. Great service isn't just lip service at Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company. It's the way they do business year after year. Having trouble finding drafting supplies? Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company still carries a complete selection. Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company is rated high in customer satisfaction by Value Star, an independent rating company. For all of your personal